while the temperatures outside are obviously dropping, the degree of my insanity is growing. Moin moin, dear people, here's Anna of Northern Germany, survivor, fighter, a writer, person who went through depression and now is going through integration in Germany, and I don't know what is worse. And I enjoy writing. I am currently writing 2 novels. Hopefully in November I will catch up with all my writing, but I shouldn't overwork myself either. And I'm making videos about mental health awareness, literature, and currently we are on the season of the witch, October, and I'm making videos in the theme of witches because I adore witches. And also I write articles, some of them are political. Right now on Medium, while I'm still have no time to prepare my website. Hopefully I will also do that at least before the end of the year. Unfortunately, with the Halloween story, I'm not managing, but it's fine. It's fine. The main idea is not to go insane. Yeah, and on Medium, I'm writing in my blog. I'm a bit nostalgic, and I have already written like the article about my 2 years in Germany, my 1 year since I claimed the asylum in Germany, and on the upcoming Tuesday, it's going to be an article 1 year in therapy. So if you're interested, the link will be in the description. And the sponsor of my today's video is Pinterest, where I found a similar makeup. I suppose those are some sigils that I mentioned in my previous video where I was living for a weekend as a witch. You are very welcome to watch it. It's long because I'm very bad at making shorter videos, but I always write time codes, and if you find something interesting in time codes, you can always click and watch it. But okay, what is the topic of today? We continue talking about witches. I'm passing to more of a Slavic theme. Not exactly, because I'm going to end the season of the witch with the Slavic legends and the Slavic mythology. But today I'm going to talk about probably one of the most famous witches in Russian literature, and I love Russian literature. I read it with a pleasure. You already know, maybe if you watched my video about Dostoevsky, writing like Dostoevsky, you're very welcome to watch it. Dostoevsky is one of my favorite authors in Russia, in Russian, and the second one is Bulgakov. Today I'm going to talk about a very famous piece of literature, at least in Russia, which is called Master and Margarita. Maybe you have heard about that. If you heard about that, you know that there are plenty of legends around the story. There is a legend that many actors died after the series based on the book was filmed. Every movie, every series, every play are failed to be staged or to be presented because there is a curse on the book. But I will introduce you to the book. I will introduce you to the author, to Mikhail Bulgakov, if you don't know him, quickly. And I will give a short description, spoiler-free description, if you were planning to read Master and Margarita. And then I will present Margarita the witch, and there will be spoilers. So yeah, first let's talk about Mikhail Bulgakov, because I find it important, because the style of the author has an impact on the book, and it helps us understand what he's talking about and why the book looks what it looks. Yeah, and there are some facts that we should take into consideration when we think about Mikhail Bulgakov. When I spoke about Fyodor Dostoevsky, his style was more like criminal Russia, murders, and he inspired himself with the pieces of newspapers, with the court cases that took place in Russia among his peers. And Bulgakov, he lived later. He lived through the First World War, the Revolution, and also through the years of Joseph Stalin. Here he is again. I didn't miss him, but here he is again, Joseph Stalin. And Mikhail Bulgakov was a doctor. He was also kind of a neurotic kind of person, a drama king, how we would call him these days maybe. And he called himself a mystic, a person who writes mystery, mysticism, etc. What we should also take into consideration, like keep in mind, Mikhail Bulgakov was from a religious family. His grandfather was a priest, his mother was very religious, and he, throughout his whole life, he was a bit hesitant. He couldn't really decide what his attitude towards religion was. And some people state that he was an atheist, and some people state that he was deeply religious. But I think, according to historical sources, he became particularly religious towards the last years of his life. So we also keep that in mind. The stories written by Bulgakov, they were like on the edge of the psychiatric ward sometimes, especially maybe latest his pieces of literature. And also another fact, he was a drug addict first in 1910s, then he gave up, and then before he died, he unfortunately was addicted again to morphine. And on the pages of Master and Margarita, on his manuscripts, the traces of morphine were found. So we remember that. And in general, he was a peculiar person. I think he would be cancelled these days, possibly because he wanted peace more than anything in his life, and he stayed in Russia and he wrote letters to Stalin. And Stalin, well, he didn't exactly love Bulgakov, but he was quite into one of the plays written by Bulgakov, and generally he was a member of the literary club in the Soviet Union. So sometimes the Soviet Union was harsh on him, but sometimes he also profited. And I also heard the fact that he was against Ukraine as a country. For some reason, why it bothered him, I have no idea. So yeah, so that was Mikhail Bulgakov. That was the author who wrote Master and Margarita. First, let's go with a non-spoiler description. A man who we will know in the novel as Master. We'll not find his name out. We'll know him as Master. He lives in 1930s, Moscow, Soviet Union, and he writes a novel based on the Bible plot. Here we should ask a question, what could go well here, right? So 1930s, Moscow, the capital of atheism, yeah. He decided to write a novel based on the Bible. And surprise, surprise, his novel wasn't well accepted. Wow, couldn't see that happening. And as a result, he suffers a lot, but at the same time, he gains unexpected fans of his book among some diabolic, some supernatural creatures. And a bunch of these creatures, arrives in Moscow and starts performing some kind of a mischief. Okay, yeah, mischief sounds funny, possibly, but there are also quite dramatic events taking place in the book, so I wouldn't expect a comedy. There are some funny parts, but I wouldn't expect a comedy if you want to read this book. I'm personally here not to talk about Master or Bulgakov. I'm talking about Margarita, the witch, one of the famous witches in the Russian culture, a witch in literature. And as a Russian person, I of course read Master and Margarita at school. That was possibly the 10th grade, the 11th grade. In Russia, people study at school 11 years, like full 11 years to enter the university. So those were my last years at school. And I read Master and Margarita and I was fascinated. I fell in love because Margarita, her, ladies and gentlemen, her, oh my god. Or at least it seemed like this when I was at school. I will still talk about that a bit later. This is actually funny because Margarita is not even the main character of the book, if we think about it, because she appears only in the second part of the book. But she appears with a loud announcement. What we find out, Master, the person who wrote the novel, he had a lover, a woman who was deeply in love with Master. And when I say in love, I mean it. She became a witch to be together with her lover. And Margarita, as she described in the book, she is 30. She has dark hair. She is, of course, beautiful, but I think one of her eyes, or maybe both, are squinted. A sign of a witch. Don't want to say anything, but my eye is also squinted, so maybe it's a sign. If you search for the description of Margarita, it's like LinkedIn. The description, it immediately gives you housewife, a witch. That's something. Margarita, she's a young woman in Moscow in 1930s. She's married to a man, and the man is prosperous as much as the person could be in the conditions of the Soviet Union. Okay. And she has everything that she could wish for. She lives on the second floor of the mansion, a very spacious flat. She has clothes, she has a maid, and to have a maid in Moscow in 1930s, that's something. So she's living a life of a lady in the country of communism. Let's describe it that way. But she is deeply unhappy. She detests her life and she even thinks about suicide. Of course she does, because her life is senseless. She doesn't really see a reason to live for her. And this is very interesting. I think Margarita is also another potential client for a psychologist, or at least for video mental awareness through literature. But I'm not going to do that. Margarita encounters Master in the street, and he sees her, she sees him. She carries a bouquet of very ugly yellow flowers, and he says to her, "Ew, they're ugly," and she throws them away, and this is love. And I always found it so romantic. Well, when I was young and stupid, I found very many things romantic that now I am looking at and saying, Ugh. It's not romantic, it's trauma, it's some job for a psychologist, okay. And yeah, I'm also preparing in November now mental awareness through literature. Also some traumas of mine. So of course, Margarita becomes the muse of Master, and they live together, and she has a husband, and he actually also has a wife, but he doesn't even remember the name of his wife. He is just saying, I had a wife, her name was, that was literally like this. And they live together. Master is writing his novel, his epic novel about Pontius Pontius Pilatus. Yeah, okay, about this guy. And she reads it and she encourages him. She is his inspiration, and she really wants him to publish this novel in Moscow in 1930s, and his novel was rejected. Again, what could go right there? And another client of ours, a psychologist, as a big boy, a very mature boy, Master, decides, instead of talking through this stuff with his love of his life, and instead he just decides to disappear from her life, and he ends up in the mental asylum, and she is forced to search for him. Very mature. What a character. But Margarita, she's a Russian woman. She is her. She doesn't give up easily. And this is when the devil steps in, okay? I also have to make a note for people who maybe listen to it or maybe thinking about reading Master and Margarita, who are now really curious. Please think about really well, because Master and Margarita is called a novel in a novel, and the plot about Margarita is not that big of a part, and instead there is a lot of religious vocabulary. There is this novel about Pontius Pilate, about Jesus Christ, or Yeshua Ganotsri, if we call him as he was named in the novel. And this is something, it's like a very, very dark forest through which you need to get through. If you get through it, you might really enjoy the novel. If you don't, you might say, what the heck is that, Anna? Yeah, okay, so we take this into consideration. So Margarita, she wants to bring her Bonnie to her. And here it comes in handy that the devil has planned a big midnight party in Moscow. And he craves a queen. And Margarita is very suitable for the queen. So she has to do some service for the devil. For that, he turns her into the witch. As a big thank you, Margarita is allowed to ask the devil to bring her love back, or at least to discover him, because this man is hiding. This man is hiding because he wants to, he doesn't want to spoil Margarita's life. He forgot to ask Margarita's opinion, of course, what she wants actually. And yeah, he is chilling in the mental asylum. Of course, in the past, when I was still at school, the devil seemed very charismatic, a man, and Margarita was stunning. And but now, I warn you, I warn myself for the future reads. The Witch, Margarita, was written by a man, And it has an impact because, of course, she is given a cream, gives her magical powers. She spreads this cream, and the cream removes all the imperfections, all the wrinkles that she has. Her skin is shining, and she is flying to the devil's ball naked on the broomstick. Of course, naked, of course, on the broomstick. Hashtag man. Man. Thus, Margarita becomes the queen of the devil's ball, and she flies to this ball on the broomstick naked, preliminarily traveling to the editor who ruined the career of her love of her life, and she crashes his flat and windows in the whole building. What would you do on the first day if you gained your powers? I should also think about it. You're welcome to write in the comments if you want to. That would also help the channel a lot. Not asking. No pressure. I think if I became a witch suddenly, I would curse Vladimir Putin. It would be like a must. The first thing I do, the first 5 minutes, I would curse Vladimir Putin. That's for sure. But okay, the story ends with some kind of a happy ending, not exactly happy ending. You're very welcome to read and to make up your own opinion if it is a happy ending or we should not consider it a happy ending. But I was growing up and my opinion was changing, and I actually reread Master and Margarita recently. Was it in spring? Yeah, possibly in spring. And there are things that I noticed and that I realized when I was at school. For some reason, I imagined Margarita as almost like a feminist icon. I don't know, maybe because she seemed powerful, she was a witch, and she fought for her love at all cost. But later I realized that what do we learn about Margarita in the book? So we learn her age, that she became a witch, and that she suffered with her previous husband or partner. But generally we see her as Master's fan, as his musa. It doesn't really show her as a personality. She loved the man, she followed the man. And I can recall at school we wrote essays about Master and Margarita, and the topic of the true love in the novel. But then I realized, like, yeah, the description, even Bulgakov, the description that he gave to this love, it was like a murder jumped on us from the corner. Suddenly, a murderer with a knife jumped on us from around the corner. I don't know. These days, it doesn't sound too romantic to me. Also, recently, maybe like half a year ago, I watched a video by one blogger, and he even described that the novel about Pontius Pilate and Yeshua Ganotsri was Devil's Gospels, and Bulgakov actually disapproved the actions of Margarita, as well as the devil actually also disapproved. He disliked Master and Margarita, although I don't know. And I don't know if I believe that or not. I'm not that of a religious person, but yeah, the devil seemed very unpleasant this time when I read that. He definitely could have treated Margarita a bit better, because he hit her on the spine and he was like, yeah, calm down, woman, calm down. And I didn't like that, because Margarita was the witch. Yeah, but the novel was written by men. By and large, I cannot say that I stopped enjoying Master and Margarita when I became older. My perspective shifted for sure, but still I see Margarita as a powerful witch. And I think if the story was written by a woman, a bit later, maybe, if we imagine that Virginia Woolf wrote this story or Sylvia Plath, of course. Yeah, why would they write that? But if we imagine that, I think it would be a different story. But it is what it is, and for sure Bulgakov was a very talented man. Sometimes a bastard, but he was a very, very talented bastard. And his comparisons, his metaphors, his language, his allusions, they are all amazing. They fit perfectly into the story, and he is the author who makes you read in between the lines, and this is why I enjoy reading Bulgakov, and it also helped him to survive throughout the years of Stalin's reign or Stalin's dictatorship. And yeah, tell me what you think. Did you read Master and Margarita? What do you think about Margarita? And yeah, it's getting dark already, so it becomes more Halloweeny. So I guess I will say goodbye to you. Thank you for watching. And as always, I'm sending you love, love, and peace, peace from Anna of Northern Germany. Only one video left till the end of the season of the witch. Tschüss.